Hello and welcome to WION Live broadcast. From New York City, I'm Susan Tehrani, and these are the top headlines for this hour. U.S. President Joe Biden urges a ban on all assault weapons. The call comes amid a series of mass shootings in California since Sunday. Israel and the U.S. hold one of their biggest joint military exercises over Israel in East Mediterranean. The war games, involving over 7,000 military personnel, are seen as a message to Iran amid growing tensions over Tehran's nuclear program. Iran, meanwhile, lashes out on sanctions announced by the United States, EU, and Britain against the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. It says the Islamic Republic will announce its own measures soon. Defying the stereotypes, it seems France has more workaholics than anywhere else on Earth. This, according to a new survey, seemingly undoing that myth. 40% of French business leaders admit to working long hours, well above the 25% global average. And Britain's Crown Estate begins court proceedings against Twitter over the alleged unpaid rent on its London headquarters. In the aftermath of a series of mass shootings in California since Sunday, U.S. President Joe Biden has urged a complete ban on assault weapons. 7 people were killed in 2 separate shooting incidents in the state of California. The shooting took place in Half Moon Bay, Northern California's agricultural region. Sheriff of the San Mateo County has confirmed the incident. Posting a tweet, he said, "The police officials are looking into the incident, which has claimed multiple lives and injured several others." The suspect is now in custody. The 2 separate shootings took place in close proximity with one another. The suspect is 67-year-old Zhao Chunli. He was found in his car in the parking lot of a sheriff's office substation in Half Moon Bay.
The motive for the shooting is currently unknown. Through investigation, the suspect, identified as Chung Li Zhao, a 67-year-old Half Moon Bay resident. At 4:40 p.m., Zhao was located in his vehicle in the parking lot of the sheriff's substation here in Half Moon Bay by a sheriff's deputy. Zhao was taken into custody without incident, and a semi-automatic handgun was located in his vehicle. Zhao is believed to have acted alone, and there is no further threat to this community. This is a devastating tragedy for this community and the families touched by this unspeakable act of violence.
Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom has condemned the latest shooting. In a tweet, he said, "At the hospital meeting with victims of a mass shooting when I get pulled away to be briefed about another shooting. This time in Half Moon Bay, tragedy upon tragedy." The deadly incident took place days after the shootout in Southern California, where 11 people were killed after a 72-year-old gunman opened fire during Lunar New Year celebrations. Senior San Mateo County officials have condemned the shooting. Dave Pine said that they're sickened by the tragedy. The people of California did not even have time to grieve for the lives lost over the weekend and called for an end to gun violence. Meanwhile, 2 teenagers have been killed in a separate shooting incident in the state of Iowa. Police say this was a targeted shootout that took place at an alternative education facility designed to keep youth out of trouble. 3 arrests have been made related to the Iowa shooting. The United States and Israel are holding their most significant joint military exercises to date. Close to 7,000 military personnel, 142 aircraft, and a ship are participating in what is among the biggest U.S.-Israel war games to date. And there's a clear message to Iran amid growing tension over its nuclear program. U.S. officials say the drills, titled Juniper Oak, are meant to demonstrate and deepen integration between U.S. and Israeli militaries. Analysts say the message to Tehran is clear, though U.S. officials claim there would be no mock-ups of Iranian targets and that the exercises aren't oriented around a particular adversary. The exercises include live fire drills involving 6,400 U.S. forces. Most of the troops will be aboard the U.S. aircraft carrier George H.W. Bush Strike Group, and around 450 troops on the ground in Israel. The U.S. aircraft will include F-35S, F-15S, F-16S, and F-18S. According to an official, the drills will, over large distance, involve land, sea, air, and space. Earlier, Israel opposed U.S. President Joe Biden's attempt to revive the Iran nuclear deal. Israel says any deal would not stop Tehran's development of a nuclear weapon. The U.S. says its commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. Meanwhile, Iran has lashed out on new sanctions imposed by the European Union and the United Kingdom, saying it would retaliate on measures taken. Iran's foreign ministry said it would soon be announcing a new list of sanctions against what it called the human rights violations of the EU and Britain. The sanctions are the latest response from the West for a brutal crackdown on protesters and other human rights abuses. The European Union had imposed fresh sanctions on more than 30 Iranian officials and organizations on Monday. This includes some units of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC. The UK has now imposed nearly 50 new sets of sanctions against Iran since anti-hijab protests broke out in the country in September. New sanctions have also been imposed by the United States. The measures mark the West's increasingly deteriorating relations with Tehran. Protests have crippled large parts of Iran since September after a young Iranian Kurdish woman, Mahsa Amini, died in custody of morality police. The protests by Iranians mark one of the bloodiest challenges the ruling theocracy has faced since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Moving on, South Africa's Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor defended planned military drills with Russia and China, calling the exercises quote-unquote friendly, adding that it was natural course of relations. The drills are to be held in the Indian Ocean along the coast of South Africa in February. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was in South Africa for a working visit, where he met his South African counterpart. On the drills, Lavrov said they were transparent and that Russia, China, and South Africa had provided all relevant information.
Russia's foreign minister on Monday cast the conflict between Moscow and the West as not hybrid and almost a real war. Sergei Lavrov, speaking during a trip to South Africa, also criticized the West for sending billions of dollars of arms to Kyiv.
The goal is to destroy everything Russian. from language to culture that has been in Ukraine for centuries, and to prohibit people from speaking their mother tongue.
South Africa is one of Russia's most important allies on a continent divided over the invasion of Ukraine and Western attempts to isolate Moscow. It says it's impartial and has abstained from voting on UN resolutions relating to what Russia calls a special military operation. South Africa initially called for Russia to withdraw from Ukraine unilaterally, but on Monday South Africa's Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor said that was no longer its position. Outside the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, where Lavrov was being hosted, protesters had gathered. People from the Ukrainian Association of South Africa waved placards and shouted slogans. Among them was Anastasia Kopeso.
Most of all, stop cowardly bombing our hospitals and our schools and apartment blocks.
South Africa's ruling African National Congress has historic close ties with Russia from when it was a liberation movement opposing white minority rule. The two countries and China will carry out joint military drills next month. Pandor, who has accused the West of condemning Russia while ignoring issues such as Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory, defended the drills. She said all countries conduct military exercises with their friends, and that it was the natural course of relations.
As part of the trial into the U.S. Capitol attack on January 6, 2021, 4 members of a far-right group have been convicted on charges of plotting a seditious conspiracy. The 4 members convicted are identified as Joseph Hackett, Roberto Minuta, David Marshall, and Edward Vallejo. They belong to a group called the Oath Keepers. They were convicted on Monday for plotting to forcibly keep then President Donald Trump in power. The conviction of the 4 men comes weeks after a founder of their group was convicted in similar charges. The deliberation in the Washington jury lasted for about 12 hours before the verdict, which found the 4 men guilty of sedition. The charge against them carries a prison term of up to 20 years. They were also convicted of 2 other conspiracy charges. The judge didn't immediately set a date for sentencing, and they were ordered to remain in home detention with electronic monitoring. Oath Keepers, an anti-government group, was found in 2009 by a former paramilitary trooper, Stuart Rhodes. Moreover, another conviction took place in Washington jury on Monday. Richard Barnett, who was famously photographed on January 6 with his feet on the desk of then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, was found guilty of disrupting Congress and other crimes. Till now, more than 950 people have been arrested on charges relating to the Capitol riots. Around 530 people have either been found guilty or pleaded guilty for taking part in those riots. Here in the United States, health officials want to make COVID-19 vaccinations more like the annual flu shot, according to the Food and Drug Administration. An easy way for future vaccination efforts is a once-a-year shot for adults and children. That would protect citizens against the mutation virus. This also means U.S. citizens would no longer have to keep track of the shots of vaccine they receive or how many months it has been since their last booster dose. The new proposal by FDA comes amid the hard sell of booster doses. According to official data, more than 80% of the U.S. population received at least 1 vaccine dose. Meanwhile, only 16% of those eligible have received the latest boosters. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says most Americans have now developed significant immunity against the coronavirus. However, adults with weakened immune systems and very small children would need a 2-dose combination protection. The target groups would go through vaccination studies to decide on multiple required parameters and to decide whether an individual needs a single shot or a 2-dose series. The initial shots from Pfizer and Moderna targeted strains of the virus that first emerged The updated boosters launched last fall were also tweaked to target Omicron and other dominating variations of the virus. Brazil and Argentina's bid to create a common currency for South America received the push after Venezuela's president announced support for the move. This makes Venezuela the first country to extend support for the initiative. On the same day it was announced, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro expressed support for the creation of a common currency and his desire to join the efforts. Maduro, who was leading march against U.S. sanctions, said that the country is ready for a common currency. Take a listen.
Today, President Lula da Silva and President Alberto Fernandez announced that they are going to take steps towards creation of a common South American currency. I announced that Venezuela is ready and we support the initiative to create a Latin American and Caribbean currency.
The initiative for a common currency was announced by Brazilian President Lula da Silva and his Argentine counterpart Alberto Fernandez during former's first visit to Buenos Aires since becoming the president. The instrument is aimed at boosting trade within the bloc, which comprises of Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Venezuela. It also aims at reducing reliance on the U.S. dollar and creating a shared value for bilateral trade that will not substitute their local currencies. According to a new survey, nearly 4 in 10 French business leaders admit to working intense, long hours without regular breaks. Our next report tells you more.
Who comes to your mind when you think about intense workers with long hours without regular breaks? The most likely image would be Chinese, Indians, Koreans, or Americans. Well, a survey's findings might surprise you. It is the French executives who binge work the most. Nearly 40% of the French executives and leaders surveyed recently admit to working intense, long hours without taking regular breaks. That is above 25% global average, and France's workplace policies and lifestyle have a lot to contribute to the working culture. Long working hours also make the French workers the most anxious about their individual work performance. The survey from health insurer Bupa Global also found the French have the most anxiety about their organization's ability to weather the current economic instability, along with a reluctance to work remotely compared to the global peers. The survey also says binge working was more common among executives who went into the office full-time, compared with those who worked remotely. The Bupa survey has considered the views of 2,439 high net worth individuals across 8 regions. With an aim to facilitate a work-life balance, France became the first European nation to apply a law regarding the right to disconnect in 2017. This required organizations to prohibit emails, calls, or other workplace encroachments after certain hours.
The Paris Couture Week got off to a wild start as heritage couture house Schiaparelli showcased their haute couture spring-summer 2023 collection. 2 people who made it wild were Kylie Jenner and Doja Cat. More than them, it was their costumes that garnered the attention of fashion enthusiasts and netizens across the globe. Speaking of Kylie's outfit, the reality TV star impressed fans and fashion police alike by opting for a lion head dress for the show. Kylie Jenner wore a black gown with an attached extravagant faux lion head attached to the shoulders. The animal-inspired summer-spring collection by Schiaparelli marked the debut of designer Daniel Roseberry. Coming to Doja Cat, the singer attended the show in a red ensemble. She wore a red dress featuring corseted bodice and a red beads-adorned skirt, styled by painting herself head to toe in red paint decorated with red crystals. Reports suggested she wore 30,000 Swarovski crystals on her dress. Interestingly, both the looks received mixed reviews from netizens, while Kylie Jenner's faux lion dress was applauded by PETA president. It was highly criticized by citizens of the net. One of the social media users wrote, and we quote, "We have to stop showing animals as luxury products." Another user wrote under Kylie's post, "Animals are not fashion accessories." A third wrote that Kylie is encouraging poaching. Talking about Doja Cat, her red ensemble started a meme fest on social media. While some compared her to Captain America's Red Skull, others put out a photo of red Cheetos, and called her a snack. Well, as they say, any kind of publicity is good publicity. And the bottom line is, they both served avant-garde. Imagine a dog walks into a bus and sniffing to identify its seat before sitting on it. A video from Skagway in Alaska with a bus of dogs has gone viral showing just this. The account where the video was posted had garnered 237,000 followers on Instagram and 1.3 million followers on TikTok after the video went viral. Take a look.
Good morning, Jake. Well, good morning.
We're waiting for the bus.
Good morning, Amaru.
Good morning, Bama.
Thank you so much for staying with us and watching WION Live broadcast from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani, signing off for now, but don't go away. More news and headlines coming up next on WION World this month.
There are many other